Dear friends, as Reformed Jews, we are rightly proud of our movement and its institutions. Since its birth in 19th century Germany, Reformed Judaism has evolved into the largest Jewish denomination in the United States, with almost 900 congregations in North America. But as Casper taught us, our responsibility, our accountability, extends well beyond our own parochial concerns. And it extends well beyond religious life on this continent. We are particularly committed to our communities in Israel, the work we do there, and especially to our Israel Religious Action Center, Israel's leading civil and human rights organization, which labors tirelessly to maintain the vitality of Israeli democracy and to ensure an inclusive Judaism in our spiritual homeland. IRAC, as it is called, is dedicated to the pursuit of a just Israeli society through combating hate, advancing religious and civil liberty, protecting the rights of converts and immigrants, and ensuring state recognition of and equal status for Reform and conservative rabbis, synagogues, and institutions. Temple Emanu-El is a proud, dedicated supporter and partner of the Israel Religious Action Center, and this morning we are deeply honored to welcome back Anat Hoffman, IRAC's outgoing, but by no definition of the word retiring, executive director, and Orly Erez-Likhovski, its incoming executive director. Together, they will reflect on our accomplishments thus far and the challenges that lie ahead. A word about each of them. Born and raised in Jerusalem, Anat Hoffman was Israel's national swimming champion, and so is accustomed to braving every current. She has dedicated her life to Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. From her 3 terms as a member of the Jerusalem City Council, to her work with the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, to her leadership of Women of the Wall, which she helped found to fight for the rights of women to pray, read Torah, and wear talit there, a struggle so important as it crystallizes and epitomizes the ongoing battle for a religious freedom in Israel that will benefit all Israelis. She was selected as Person of the Year by Haaretz in 2013 and chosen as one of the 50 most influential Jews by the Jerusalem Post in 2014. Soon to step down after guiding IRAC for 20 years, Anat is a living reminder of how Judaism is a religion of action. What a privilege it is for me to welcome one of my true heroes and the individual who will succeed her as IRAC's new executive director. Orly Erez-Likhovski holds a bachelor's degree in law from Tel Aviv University. After interning in the Supreme Court, she received a master's focused on human rights law at Columbia, and so is a member of the bar both in Israel and New York. An attorney at IRAC since 2004, she currently directs its legal department and is responsible for some of its most significant legal achievements, such as making gender segregation on public transportation illegal, ending the Orthodox monopoly on state-funded salaries to rabbis, and filing and winning the first ever class action suit regarding exclusion of women. We are honored both she and Anat are here with us this morning, so please join me in welcoming first Anat Hoffman and then Orly Erez-Likhovski.
Shabbat Shalom. You did well, Casper. You are a kochav, a star. If you can pronounce the word dror, which means freedom, you're 50% there. Dror. Can you say it? It's in this parasha. Dror. I just have two thoughts for you. One is that the state of Israel, in my opinion, is the most important development, historic development of our lifetime. And in a way, it's way too important to be left only to the Israelis. You too are partners in that, certainly this congregation. And don't let anyone tell you that because you don't pay taxes in Israel, or because you don't go to the army in Israel, you don't have a say when we discuss what are the Jewish values of the Jewish state. It's very important that you come and voice that you believe that religious pluralism and tolerance and equality and democracy are Jewish values, and the Jewish state should adhere to them. In fact, it's in our Declaration of Independence, which Orly will be talking about. The second thought is that Orly in Hebrew means my light. Or is light, Li is mine. She is my light, and she will enlighten all of us now with some of the struggles we have in Israel. Orly, b'vakasha.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's such a treat to be here, and thank you, Rabbi Davidson, for your warm words. We have just celebrated Israel's Independence Day 2 weeks ago. The Israel Declaration of Independence includes a beautiful paragraph which states, "The state of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. It will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions." Israel's founding fathers and mothers sought to create a model state and society, one which will be a light unto the nations. But the vision was never fully implemented. At the Israel Religious Action Center, we seek to implement this vision, to rectify the injustices that still exist, to work for Tikkun Olam. We at IRAC never hesitate to challenge existing unjust practices. We work to ensure that there is more than one way to be Jewish, that all Jews should have a place at the Western Wall, that the Reform movement will receive equal government funding as the Orthodox do, that Israeli municipalities will not discriminate against Reform congregations in Israel's towns. We are not willing to accept the demand of some ultra-Orthodox that women will not be seen or heard in the public sphere. When ultra-Orthodox politicians tried a decade ago to create segregated buses in Israel, buses in which women were required to sit in the back of the bus, we petitioned the Israeli Supreme Court and won a landmark case which declared that gender segregation is illegal. We made the Israeli airline El Al change its discriminatory policy, according to which flight attendants forced women to switch seats on its planes because male ultra-Orthodox passengers refused to sit next to them just for being women. We are in the middle of a long, ongoing battle to remove modesty signs which hang in some ultra-Orthodox neighborhood in Israel, asking or demanding women passing through these neighborhoods to dress modestly. And just this week, we sued an ultra-Orthodox internet news site which consistently blurs images of women on pictures appearing on the internet side, and they actually blurred the images of me and fellow leaders of the Reform and conservative movements and Women of the Wall in a picture which appeared on the news site. The men appeared and the women's faces were blurred. We also seek to advance racial equality in Israel. When Orthodox rabbis use their state-paid positions to incite racial hatred against Israeli Arabs, we turn to the courts and make sure these rabbis are disciplined. We fight against businesses which illegally discriminate against Arabs. For example, one of our ongoing court cases deals with a major Israeli taxi app, the Israeli equivalent of Uber, which allows Israeli passengers to specifically choose Jewish rather than Arab drivers, a practice which is illegal according to Israel's law. We are also involved in voting rights campaigns and are now assisting Bedouins living in unrecognized villages in the Negev desert to have access to polling stations close to their homes instead of having to travel long distances on election day in order to vote. We are helping Reform converts from all over the world, including lately from the Ukraine and Russia, receive citizenship under Israel's law of return, and we offer legal aid to foreign, non-Jewish women who had to leave their abusive Israeli husbands and thus face the danger of losing their Israeli residency permits and of being deported from Israel. We have done this and so much more, and there is still so much to do. This week's portion, which Casper read so beautifully, is Behar, the portion which includes, as we heard, the Shemitah commandment. The Israeli Reform Rabbi Tamar Dovdevani says the Shemitah is an exercise in letting go, in opening one's clenched fist. Only after we let go will we be able to reach the promised land. I believe that the Shemitah commandment is not merely about the need every seventh year not to plow the land or to forsake the repayment of debts. Letting go is a bigger idea. We should let go of discrimination, of exclusion, of racism, of religious coercion, and of zealotry in order for us to reach the promised land and make the values of Israel's Declaration of Independence a reality. The Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai wrote, "Even a fist was once an open palm with fingers." We are seeking to turn the fist, the hatred, the intolerance, the exclusion, into an open palm, the palm of inclusion, compassion, and tolerance, based on the age-old Jewish values of supporting the disadvantaged and lending our hand to the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. As we heard, our parasha states that every 50 years, when a jubilee year arrives, all the inhabitants of the land should be freed. קידשתם את שנת ה-50 שנה וקראתם דרור בארץ לכל יושביה. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. This year we are marking not 50, but 35 years since IRAC was established. On this jubilee, we pledge to continue our work to promote freedom, equality, and justice for all the inhabitants of the State of Israel. And to you, Casper, just a word. The famous Israeli singer Arik Einstein has a very famous song called "Ani ve'ata neshane et ha'olam." You and me can change the world. From hearing you, I'm sure that you can definitely change the world, and nothing is impossible for you and your generation. And so I wish you luck, mazal tov, and Shabbat shalom.